Welcome to the Standard H podcast, a casual conversation about the lives of entrepreneurs and those growing companies. I can't thank you enough for listening, as these episodes have been a wonderful supplement to the line of apparel that I'm thrilled to share is steadily growing. If you like what you hear, please visit standard-h.com and sign up for our email list. The website not only hosts every episode of this show, but also allows you to explore the entire product assortment and our latest travel recommendations. As an email subscriber, you will be the first to receive product release information as well as receive offers no one else is privy to. Just visit standard-h.com for more information. Seeing Standard H worn by a growing number of watch enthusiasts has been incredibly cool to witness, so chances are good if you're listening to this, you're probably an enthusiast already. However, if not, it makes no difference, as Passion Fine Jewelry welcomes everyone into their shop in Solana Beach, California. If you're already in deep, you'll know some of the brands that Tim Jackson and his team carry, which are some of the most highly sought-after independent watch manufacturers sold today. Names like Roger Smith, Grunfeld, Kudoke, Habring, Sarpaneva, and many more. If you can't make it to California, visit passionfinejewelry.com for their entire offering online. This episode is also brought to you by Cantonment. Cantonment's flagship product, the kerchief, is a perfect medium between a handkerchief and a bandana. Featuring iconic designs such as the Fender Stratocaster and the dashboard of a Volkswagen GTI, these utilitarian cloths are an item that should be a mainstay in your everyday carry. Tuck one in a back pocket or use one as a neckerchief. Visit them at cantonment.co, that's cantonment.co, and use the code STANDARDH in all caps, no spaces, for 20% off everything in their online shop. Now let's get to the show. If you're active on social media and happen to be a sports fanatic, you may be familiar with today's guest, Gary Striewski. As the host of SportsCenter on Snapchat, Gary is one of my favorite follows simply based on his antics around the ESPN studios and everything surrounding his day-to-day, including his documented bromances with his co-hosts. Gary knew he'd host SportsCenter ever since the 6th grade when he'd given the school announcements. However, school wasn't always a smooth sail for Gary, as he describes in his college experience. We do a deep dive into underrated and GOAT status anchors from behind the desks there in Bristol, followed by an exploration in Gary's time making $20,000 a year to work at ESPN and what he feels played a role in getting him there. We of course chat watches, which I guess I should add. Gary and I met through former guest VJ Geronimo. We chat about how wonderful the community is and what his first big watch purchase was like. Gary's also a big F1 fan, so of course we touch on his favorite driver and why he enjoys a villain. Then we wrap up chatting about his real estate ventures, which is especially fun for me as it's something I've been looking forward to get more involved in. Gary has such a wonderful energy, and I'm grateful for the conversation as I am with all the guests, and I'm really looking forward to getting together with him soon. I think you're going to enjoy this one. I'm your host, Wesley Smith, and you're listening to the Standard H podcast. Yo, what's happening?
Dude, great to see you, first and foremost.
Absolutely.
Secondarily, apologies that I had to call an audible. Thirdly, I guess I need to disclose in full transparency, and I saved it for the podcast. And I feel like it would just make good podcast father to tell you I had to delay it because, unlike San Diego, it is not 75 and sunny 365 days a year. So when approached with a 3:30 tea time, you have to take full advantage. And when it's with workmates, it's not something I can say no to easily. So again, my deepest apologies, but you don't understand the struggle out here in New England.
I was going to say, you're in Connecticut, right?
Yeah, West Hartford.
Okay, so Connecticut is facing what we call fall and winter.
Yes.
What you and I call that. In San Diego, we don't even know what those terms mean, to your point. So I get it, man. Get out there, tee it up, have some fun.
Yeah, it was a miserable round, of course, dude, but it's still an awesome round nonetheless. In that it wasn't expected. I've been trying to get out all week because I think I mentioned to you last time we saw you in San Diego, I've been trying to play literally every day, but it's just been raining like crazy the last week. So I haven't been able to get out. So today finally broke. And I was like, all right, dude, I got to get out there.
Okay, so are we maintaining the buzz? What are we drinking over there?
Dude, I literally, dude, I like just walked in. So I haven't even like,
Dude.
I didn't even drink on the course because I'm a lightweight. So one and I'm done. And we only played 10 holes because we were zipping around just trying to get as many as we could in. But
Right.
there was like this high school tournament. So all that to say, I made a little bit of food that I might, take some bites out of, but I'm gonna save the brewskis for Thursday night football.
Okay.
In like an hour.
Okay. I was gonna say I cracked a beer. I hope you're not offended, because I was anticipating. All good. Well, cheers, no less. Hope the golf game maybe goes better next time.
Dude. Sure. I just started playing in July. So
Oh, okay.
I get those strikes that keep me coming back 1 out of every 10. So yeah, dude, it's all good. I'm of the golf ability where I know that I suck now, but I'm at the confidence. It's not like overtly confident, but I'm of the confidence that I know I'm going to get better. So it's all good.
Right. Right. It's only up from here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like they say, when you get to the top of anything, it's staying at the top. That's the difficult
Yeah.
part.
And plus,
So,
it's lonely up there. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just a bottom dweller right now. You know what I mean? And that's fine with me.
no, it's all good, man. Okay, so you've been posting stuff about your Jeep. It was on like the back of a trailer? Is that your Jeep, first of all? Like, what's going on with your Jeep?
Wes, let me tell you something, bro. When we first agreed to do this podcast, I was like, this is great. It's going to be an opportunity for me to mother F this dealership and berate them to kingdom come. Since then, I did send a sharply worded email to the GM. I don't like escalating situations. I don't like using examples of like, here's why you should be paying particular attention to this certain dilemma. But it got to the point where I had to. Sure enough, I got a phone call an hour later that basically met / exceeded all of the things that I asked for in lieu of using loss of use. Because yeah, it's a brand new Jeep, 2022. I've had a Wrangler before, so when I sold mine in 2020, I was like, I'm gonna get another one day. And I love the Army Sarge Green 2022 6-speed Willis. It came available on a local lot that I've done work with, and I bought it. 4 days later, the clutch stuck, cylinder was bad, whole thing. But anyway, I got it back, and we're good. We're smoothed over with the dealership.
Nice, man. Nice. Love to hear the success stories when it comes to cars, because
I mean, it took a little bit. Yeah, it took a little bit of aggressive Gary, not even aggressive, but just like stand your ground, Gary, I think to convey my point that I was none too pleased and it was going to get ugly if it wasn't satisfied, I guess.
I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed.
Super disappointed.
What was your first car, man? Ever?
1999, 35th anniversary Ford Mustang.
Get out of here.
6-cylinder. Dude.
Yeah. Wait.
Yeah, man.
Your parents were crazy.
No, not really. It was a 6-cylinder. And I didn't know how to drive a stick. And this was a 5-speed. And dude, even back then, I was like, this is a deal too good to be true. I got it for $5,500. Single owner. Yeah, I was 17. My dad was a Colorado State trooper. But here's the thing, dude. It wasn't like a Mustang in the sense where it was like 8-cylinder V8. It was a pony, right? Like it was a V6, right. But it was awesome. Like it was my first car in high school. It was a pretty badass first car for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that was a good one, dude. I gave it the extra horsepower by getting the Ford Racing seatbelt covers. Just a couple mods. Just a couple mods to the Stang, dude.
Okay, so if your dad was a state trooper, it sounds like he was probably on patrol.
Yeah, he was he retired as a corporal. He spent 20 years as a state trooper. Yeah.
So what was his daily driver when he wasn't at work if he's giving you a Mustang?
He had a Crown Victoria that he brought home. He had a truck, just like a dinky, not dinky, it was brand new, but he drove a Ranger for the longest time.
Sure.
Then he retired. No, sold, maybe had them both at the same time. He ended up getting a Mach 1,
Oh,
with the rumble hood.
yeah.
Had a Mach 1 and he built it to the balls, dude. It was clean. And that was a car that was dangerous. And he let me drive that a lot. And it's way too much power, dude, for like a 16, 17-year-old kid to be having.
Yeah.
Like that's way too much car. Thankfully, I never did anything. I always brought it back in pristine condition. And when he retired, he bought himself a C6 Corvette because all dads.
Nice.
Sold that because he had dual hip replacement. So now he's trying to get a C8.
Oh, wow.
Special brewing for him next week. He's flying out for that's going to scratch that itch for a little bit.
Okay. Nice. So he's flying to come see you?
Yeah. My parents live in Colorado. They're in Denver, where I grew up, right? But he's coming out next Wednesday to Wednesday because Corvette actually reached out to me and we're like, hey, we're introducing our 70th anniversary Stingray. Do you want to borrow it for the week? And I was like, is this a scam?
Oh my God.
So yeah, no, they're sending out the car Monday. I told my dad about it. I was going to surprise him, but coordinating flights were tough. So I just kind of was like, hey, this is happening. You should come out. And 20 minutes later, he had a flight booked. So we'll have a C8. And it's built. It's not a Z06, but it's built. It's a 3LT, so a maxed out Stingray, and we get it for a week. Should be pretty badass.
That's incredible, man. And what a way to spend that time with your dad too.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. I mean, of course, I'm going to be driving it and making content for him, but part of that content, probably the majority of that content, is like, yo, look how happy my old man is.
That's amazing, man. Are you guys doing a road trip? Like, are you guys doing
Nothing like a formal road trip, but we'll probably go see his sister in South Shore, Massachusetts.
Okay.
We'll probably take some trips, up to Springfield and into Boston. Yeah.
Nice. Well, you're wearing what I would call Carolina blue polo and a white hat with a big old check on the front. But I don't know. Is that Denver Nuggets blue to you? Like what?
Dude,
what do
this
we call
is like
this?
early 2000s Denver Nugget when teams were still rocking the Durasheen, the East Bay, not bedazzled, but the East Bay sheeny jerseys.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Once I started picking up golf, I was like, this is sick. It gives me an excuse to buy like all kinds of swag that I would normally not be able to pull off if somebody was like, did you just play golf?
Right.
Say yes, but now that I picked up golf, that's exactly what I could say.
Well, it's interesting you should bring this up because the episode I'm dropping in 2 weeks or week and a half is with a guy who owns an apparel brand called Metalwood, but it's golf inspired. And his whole MO is I want to make clothes that yes, they function on the golf course, but they don't just look like golf clothes. Like, hey man, did you play golf just now? Like every guy that walks into the steakhouse is clearly straight from the freaking, driving range or the 18th hole. So like his whole thing was like, I want to be able to like have golf appropriate clothing, but also rock it in the streets. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that's interesting. You mentioned you're from Denver. Where did you go to undergrad?
I have to preface this story every time
Okay.
because the school is called Metropolitan State University of Denver. And if you live in Colorado, you know exactly what it is. If you're outside of Colorado, you're like, is that a make-believe school?
Right.
Or you're like, was that a school in a movie or something? But yeah, I got my undergrad. My freshman year, I went to Colorado State, which is in Fort Collins.
Sure.
Bombed out academic probation. I had a sub 1 GPA. I thought my parents were going to kill me, dude, because coming from a Korean household, my dad's Polish, my mom's Korean, but being in Korean culture, education is everything. So when I had a sub 1 GPA, I thought they were going to literally kill me. Right. But they like showed me, it was the best gift my parents ever gave me was like forgiveness. Like one time they're like, we knew you were going to mess up. First time away from home, no rules, you live with your friends, but this is your one mess up. So after that year, I think maybe half of my credits transferred, right? So I transferred home, I lived at home, and I went to a school. Yeah, it's actually the highest enrollment in Colorado, just because it's the kids who, didn't want to go to CU, couldn't go to CU, couldn't afford to go to CU, or didn't want to pay to go to CSU. So yeah, powerhouse Division II basketball program, like national champions when I was there. So yeah, that's where I went. Metro State. Look it up. We're the Road Runners.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. So what was the undergrad degree in, and like, what were you spending your time
Speech communication, man. One thing I knew for sure is I always wanted to be in broadcast. I always wanted to, when I was given the 6th grade announcements in middle school, I was like, I'm going to host SportsCenter one day, legitimately. In 6th grade, I knew I was going to, well, I didn't know in 6th grade I was going to do it, but that was my goal in 6th grade. I was like, I'm going to be a SportsCenter anchor. So my undergrad was in speech communication, broadcast journalism. I had a minor in nutrition. I started interning when I was a sophomore. The rest is history.
Well, dude, it's interesting. Like, I'm a little older than you are. So if you're in 6th grade, you don't want to know.
You're not in your 40s.
I'm 43 in November, man. Next month.
Are you really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, that's that San Diego living, bro.
Oh, man. It's that Cary, North Carolina upbringing. That's what I call it.
Damn, dude. You're going to be 43. Okay, so I'm 35.
Yeah.
Hey, we both look great for our age.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But you have Asian help.
Yeah, that's facts. That the Polish side tries to offset it sometimes, but the Korean genes are strong. That's why I have to eat rice every day, dude.
That's so funny. Okay, so let's put things in perspective. You're in 6th grade, giving people what they want to know, over the intercom system. Meanwhile, I'm in my freshman year at NC State watching Stuart Scott on SportsCenter every single morning, eating my breakfast.
Yeah.
Who is your SportsCenter anchor? Because I loved Stuart Scott, Kenny Mayne. I mean, that dude is hilarious. Who else? Scott Van Pelt, obviously. I mean, one of the GOATs.
Don't forget Robert Flores. Don't forget Ro.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was gonna say underrated category. John Anderson, I think, is very underrated. Yeah. I would say Neil Everett, arguably underrated. He's still going, but
I think Neil Everett is perfectly rated in the sense that everybody loves him.
Yeah, he's great.
Right?
Yeah.
If you know SportsCenter, like he's always in that first initial grouping of like people who say they love to watch. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So who was your guy in 6th grade? Who were you
Just
looking
named
at?
them all. I mean,
Okay.
Scott, obviously, Scott Van Pelt.
Yeah.
Yes. When I was a little bit older, like going into high school, college, it was Robert Flores. Dude, what's crazy is like I remember watching Jay Harris. He was the guy I did my first SportsCenter with, and I was like, holy shit, this is like actually happening. Yeah. So Jay Harris, Linda Cohn.
Yeah, of course. Hockey player.
And then Kenny Mayne. Yeah, it was Kenny Mayne. So like those were kind of like the stalwarts. I just missed. I remember Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann.
Yes.
But I think I was just a little bit young. I think they might have been like a year or two before me. Like I started watching SportsCenter like right at the tail end of the original set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So, okay, so you knew you wanted to get into broadcast journalism, but what was your first job out of college?
First TV job?
Or just first job? What'd you do out of school?
Yeah, I mean, during my undergrad, I was actually a finance specialist at a credit union. So I was doing mortgages and stuff.
Oh, whoa.
Funny, because I'm like doing mortgages while living at home with my parents. And I'm like, yeah, this is what you want to do with the biggest purchase you'll ever make in your life. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think I was getting paid like $14.50 or $15.50 an hour. And I was part-time. My manager, who's like a close personal friend now, her name's Stacy, was just a godsend. And she, let me have a part-time schedule. And she always knew that one day I was going to leave. When I got the call, I took a pay cut to get my first job in Wyoming after I graduated. I graduated in May of 2010, and I got my first TV job in December of 2010. Cheyenne, Wyoming, which is the best thing that could have happened to me because it was only an hour-ish north of my hometown in Thornton. So I would drive up, come home on the weekends. My mom would do my laundry. I'd hang out with my friends because it was only an hour. I felt like I was getting my master's degree because I would come home. I'd be home before midnight Fridays because our newscast was 10 to 10:30. I would stay home cooking. I was making $600 every 2 weeks, like 20 grand a year. So I had zero cash. And then I would drive up Monday morning and I would just do it again. And I did it for 16 months until I got my second job in Houston. And that was when I had to move for the first time away.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So have you always done sports?
Yeah.
Okay.
In Houston, they sold me a fake bag of goods. I was supposed to be like the number 3 sports guy. I get there and they're like, you're on the weekend morning crime beat. I'm like, what? And I don't know if you know about Houston, but
Right.
it's not too unlike what it was 10 years ago now, like crime everywhere. And I was by myself, bro, with a camera. I'm going into like these dodgy areas at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, like fresh murders, right? Nothing good happens after midnight.
Right.
I'm getting fresh calls. You know what I'm saying? So that was a quick eye-opening experience. And I tell a lot of people, like, yeah, it's good to know what you want to do in life, but it's equally as great to know what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And I knew in that first 6 months, well, quicker than that, but it took me 6 months to get enough balls to say something that I didn't want to do hard news. I'm like, this sucks.
Wow.
Seeing dead bodies and stuff. I'm like, I don't need to see this. If I want to do that, I'll just watch the Jeffrey Dahmer freaking docuseries, which is fucking crazy in its own right, dude. I can't believe people like that existed and still exist.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, it's interesting. So did you quit that job? Because obviously
I didn't quit. I told my news director, because I was 25, I was the youngest dude in market 10 at the time. So like I was just happy to be there. I went from market 195 in Wyoming to market 10, where, you know, people in this business work their whole lives to get to a market 10. So I'm like 24, 25, like just shut up and deal with it. You're not going to be here forever. But at the same time, I was like, yo, this sucks. This is not what they told me. So eventually I talked to my news director, and, you know, back then I was probably timid and like, oh, thank you so much for the opportunity. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I probably couldn't get out of my own way, but they eventually pivoted me back to sports, which is great. And then within 8 months of that, I got my job in Boston.
Okay.
For the next 5 years of my life.
So tell me this, because I don't know your business at all, aside from I know anchor names. Market 10, is that obviously a ranking of distribution, like your audience or whatever, like your
audience, basically, like how big your market is. So New York, of course, 1,
Sure.
LA 2, I believe Chicago 3, Philly 4, DFW 5.
Oh, it's literally done by city.
Yeah, that's just like the rankings, right? So like New York has the biggest audience, right?
Right.
Their viewing region is the largest in the country. And then, yeah, Cheyenne was 50,000 people. So we're market 195. I think it's called DMA.
Okay.
But yeah, Houston's top 10. And like, if you're in a top 50 market, you're doing something with your, let me rephrase that.
No, I know what you're saying.
If you have a TV job, you're doing something with your life. But like, if you're in top 50, you know you did something right. If you're in top 25, like, all right, you know you're doing something really good. If you're top 10, you're like, shit, I'm top 10. You know what I mean?
Okay, so how do you go from 195 to 10?
I think they needed to check a box.
Oh, is that right? Is that right?
I don't know. I think let's not dodge around it, right? Like, you can get younger people cheaper. It's just the fact of life, right? I was going from making 20 grand, and my first year in Houston, I was making 58. As a 24-year-old, 58 10 years ago with no state tax, dude, I might as well have been a millionaire.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
You know, my second year, I think I went from 58 to 65, and I'm like, dude, I'm rolling in the dough. You know, you get a guy or a gal who's been in the business 10 years, they have a family, they got a mortgage, you know, the conversation has to start at 100 grand.
Right.
So you can get 2 of me for the price of 1 of them. And yeah, we're not as good or we're not as polished, but we're going to learn quick. Or you at least hope the people you're hiring are going to learn quick and be good. And I think I will say I've always been good at just like adapting and sort of outplaying my original role. I've done that in every single job I've ever had in the business, which I think is what's helped me get to this point. So yeah, it's kind of yeah, I definitely grew into the market and the role.
That's cool. I mean, yeah, because I mean, I've always said, if you're not learning, you're dying. Really.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely. It's like people who just like rest on their laurels and just think that, no, I'm here, so I'm calling it good. I'm like, you guys are gonna
right,
get passed up quick.
right. So, um, was there anything between Houston and ESPN?
Mhm. After Houston, I was there for 14 months. Got the call to go to Nesson in May of 2013. And from May of 2013 to January of 2017, probably the best 4 years of my professional and personal life. I mean, it was just so awesome. I have family in Boston. I've always been a Red Sox fan.
Yeah.
I was always a Tom Brady fan. So here I am going to Nesson, which does Red Sox, does Bruins. I was the Red Sox sideline reporter. So when it wasn't in season, I was covering the Patriots. The Celtics sucked when I was there, but I was going to every Patriots game. It was when Peyton Manning was with the Broncos. So I would go to Colorado for the Patriots games. So see my family, but I'm working. So it's kind of like, damn, Gary's doing big things.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
Like he's following the Patriots. So man, it was just like such an incredible 4 year window that I just look back at so fondly and
Yeah.
think like that's where I did so much growing professionally, personally. It didn't hurt that I did a little bit financially. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even though the raise that I got going from Houston to Boston was completely negated because I realized
Cost
how
of living.
expensive Boston
Yeah.
was. But yeah, man, I was in Boston for 5 years. I bowed out of my contract. I had a 3 year option coming up, and I bowed out of that. I wanted to explore the entertainment space, so I got a job. I left Nesson in January, and I moved home. Um, and I was in LA for a bunch of interviews, Entertainment Tonight, Extra, because I kind of wanted to do something outside of sports. Got contacted with the executive producer at Extra, and he was like, "Hey, I'm advising on this project out of Dallas. It's a morning new, like think of Good Morning America, but just like the broke man's version, right?"
Sure, sure.
So I moved down to Dallas in June of 17, and I did that show it's called Morning Dose, and it was awesome. We were in like 18 markets across the country, and I loved it.
Nice.
March of 18, ESPN called, and I was like, sixth grade Gary said I would be here one day.
That's insane, man. So, like, when you get the call from ESPN, what do they say?
I mean, so fortunately, he's my agent now, but the talent director at ESPN, he and I always stayed in touch because he was a Red Sox fan. And the good thing about working at Nesson in Boston with the Red Sox is you're always on the TV at ESPN because it's the Red Sox, it's the Bruins. It's basically a feeder line, right? Like it's a pipeline. So he texted me out of nowhere one day and was like, "Hey, your watch is distracting. I had this monster, like 48 millimeter Bulova gold. I thought I was the shit, bro. You couldn't tell me nothing." Every freaking hit I would do, I would just be like, "Yeah, guys, and David Ortiz," you know what I'm saying? So he texted me and he was busting my balls, but then we kind of struck up a friendship and we always stayed in touch. So it wasn't a surprise to me. But February of 18, he kind of was like, "Hey, we're doing this SportsCenter Snapchat thing. It's not SportsCenter TV, but I think it's a good way for us to get you in the door."
Okay.
I'm like, "Say less."
Yeah.
March of 18, I signed a part-time deal and I would fly up. Dude, my schedule at the beginning of 18 was so awesome. I loved it, bro. I was like, dude, I'm living this shit right now. Because Monday through Friday, I would do my morning show, which was 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. Friday morning at 10:30, I would catch a flight from DFW to Bristol. I would host SportsCenter Snapchat Friday night, Saturday night, catch the first flight out of Bristol back to Dallas Sunday morning to do the shift Monday through Friday. So I worked 7 days a week from March to June. I loved it. I was like, I was getting paid weekly. I was like, this is the shit. You know what I mean? I was like, dude, I'm living it, dude. I'm doing entertainment. I'm doing SportsCenter, Snapchat. It was awesome.
So did they know that you were working both jobs?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because like the EP, his name is Rick Joyce, dude, a dear friend, loved the guy to death. I mean, he basically, yeah. I mean, they knew I was eventually gonna leave. Like I told him I would stay in Dallas for another year. But he's like, no, dude, go to Bristol. Like if they're gonna make you full time, which they eventually did in June of 18. And then ESPN hired me on a part-time contract, and they're like, we'll fly you up like every other weekend. Bro, they flew me up every weekend starting in March because that's how it happens at ESPN, man. I tell you, if you can survive like the attrition, that's half the battle, man. Because Bristol, of course, it's not a premier destination, right? So if you can be cool with living in Central Connecticut and grinding your ass off and answering the call, literally, the phone's not going to stop ringing, and it didn't. So yeah, both of them knew, and then finally they're like, "This doesn't make sense to fly you up every weekend. We're paying more in your travel than we are in your salary."
Right. You're like, great, double my salary.
Yeah. They damn near quadrupled it.
Oh, nice.
They made me full time. They made me full time. Those part time deals, they're nothing. They're just kind of like get
Right.
you in the door, kind of prove it deals, right? They're like 1 year deals, and then I guess I proved it.
Okay, so what exactly is your title? I mean, obviously you said SportsCenter chat, Snapchat, excuse me, but is that just like SportsCenter Snapchat host? Is that your title?
Dude, you know what's so funny?
You don't know, do you?
Just changed.
Oh, okay.
Um, well, not like just changed in the sense of I think initially when I got hired, I was like ESPN digital host. But now I think that I actually am. Let me look it up. Gary Striewski, Sports Center anchor. So that's kind of cool, right?
Nice.
Like when you look me up on Google, Gary, if you just do Gary Striewski ESPN, it takes you to ESPN press room, and then my headshot's right there. It says Sports Center anchor. That's why I just looked it up. I think
Nice.
initially it was like digital host or just host.
Right.
So yeah, I'm a Sports Center anchor, man, which is crazy, dude. I find myself sitting in the studio more often than I think, just sitting there, like commercial break or something. And I'm like, holy shit, dude.
You're here.
I'm really doing this shit right now.
Yeah.
And it's nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is crazy, man. It's what was I going to ask you? It's just like, okay, so obviously we follow each other on Instagram. I see all your posts. Full disclosure, I am not on Snapchat. So I don't know what your day is like, and I don't know what your broadcast is like, which is horrible of me to even admit this on this podcast.
Hey, way to do your research, Wes.
Yeah. I've done all. No, actually, you know what's funny? That's kind of that's like a running joke on this show is that I do zero research so that I can react the same way. Hopefully, our listeners are right and like be like, oh shit. And yeah,
I originally thought you built transmissions, bro.
yeah, I know. I mean, hey, we got apparel coming out and everything. You know what I mean?
It's all good. Snapchat's amazing. And
I mean, I know about it, right? Like I know how it more or less functions, right? But like I'm saying for you, Gary,
yeah, you're a little too old for our demographic anyway.
right? No, 100%. And that's exactly, no, you're exactly right.
Like it's a digital show that lives for 24-hour cycles, right? So we don't tape our show until games are done. So like on a typical Snapchat shift, we'll have a meeting at 7, like right now, we'll have a meeting, talk about what games are happening, what headlines happened that day. How can we spin it forward? Because by the time our viewers watch it, it'll be tomorrow 5 a.m. till the next 5 a.m. So it's like, how do we take the fact, and it's just because it's recent, how do we, actually I'll use this one because how do we take the fact that the SEC is suing Kim Kardashian, make it sports, give it a twist, and make it specifically SportsCenter Snapchat? And I was like, well, why is Nick Saban suing Kim Kardashian, right? Knowing that it's the Securities and Exchange Commission, right? And not the Southeastern Conference, suing Kim Kardashian. So that was my pitch. And we did this whole 90-second bit where I'm like, why why does Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, care that Kim Kardashian is selling her assets? Is it because Tennessee has a hooker at quarterback too? His name's Hendon Hooker. So I'm like bobbing and weaving like the SEC, Southeastern Conference, with the actual SEC suing Kim Kardashian, trying to make it sports. And it came out well. I tweeted it and I put it on my Instagram. And, we get, sorry, my dog's right underneath me. We get good feedback like that. So it's just like, how can we be creative with a storyline or a headline that by the time people see it, they'll already generally know the gist of it, but how can we put a twist on it? So that's what I take pride in, man, is like the writing and the creativity, making a headline different.
Yeah. What's something about working at ESPN that ended up surprising you?
It's such a behemoth of a freaking network. We got our tentacles in everything. We got our fingerprints on everything. And it's so big. I'm not going to say like to its detriment, but it's so big that sometimes you could feel like you're on an island. Mm-hmm. SportsCenter has their group. Live Events has their group, and they live in Charlotte. First Take has their group. SportsCenter Snapchat, we have our group. So it's not siloed in a bad way. It's just indicative of like, we have so much content that we're responsible for churning out daily. It's like every day I'm just like in awe with how many producers and directors and APs and PAs are all part of like this pretty delicate balance to make live TV.
Yeah.
Or, Instagram posts. Like you follow ESPN and SportsCenter on Instagram and you're like, oh, look at this post. We post 20 times a day, 15 times a day. Bro, there's a whole team. I'm talking like dozens of people on that team to get like that one Instagram up. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, because they bought, what was the company they bought with Omar? What was his thing?
I don't know that ESPN bought House of Highlights.
House of Highlights, yeah.
I think he sold House of Highlights, and I don't want to get it wrong, but I think he's just like an ESPN employee, and he sold House of Highlights independently to, I think, Turner, or that might be Bleacher Report. I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
That's fine. Yeah, because that was years ago, if I recall. Yeah, man, it's really interesting. I actually worked for the X Games on a few different occasions as a PA. Was it 15 years ago? And, one of my favorite shoots to go on. Oh, did you do Aspen?
This was pre-COVID, yeah.
Okay.
2020, dude. It was like this part of this marathon travel I did. I went to I think it was like the Fiesta Bowl, National Championship, Cowboy Cerrone versus Conor McGregor, X Games, NBA All-Star Game, all from January to March.
Unbelievable.
COVID happened, bro.
Yeah.
Well, I went on a hell of a heater, and then COVID. Right. So I'm like, dude, I was not shortchanged at the beginning of 2020. Beginning of 2020.
Yeah.
At all. Yeah, dude. X Games Aspen is so sick, dude. It's so sick.
I was living in LA at the time, so as you can imagine, it was obviously the summer X Games, but I've always wanted to go to Aspen, never been all over Colorado, never been to Aspen, definitely never been to X Games. But
unreal.
What I would say is it's almost the opposite of what you were saying about how the teams are so big at ESPN, because the X Games, they literally had like 5 full-time employees, and they would literally pull contract workers like myself for 6 days.
Yeah.
And it was just impressive how they could do so much with so little.
And I think that speaks to like people in production in general, man, are like,
yeah,
they're so talented. And I know so many people say it, but it's not just lip service. Like those are like the actual talented people getting a production up and going.
Mm-hmm.
Your light guy, your sound person, your techs, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's just those guys are the ones. Those guys and gals are the ones who, do the heavy lifting. They do the grunt work, literally and figuratively. They get the production up and running, and they just hand it off to us to not screw it up.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's pressure for you guys too. Yeah. No, 100%.
I'm saying it's a lot of pressure for the forward facing people. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they take weeks to set up Winter X.
Right.
You're doing a 30-minute broadcast or whatever. Like, and if you suck through the whole thing, it's like, dude, what?
Yeah,
Not that they care. They're busy doing something else by then, but
yeah.
yeah, man.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, you and I obviously met through Oris and at the Padres game last month, or is it, God, it's October. Was that August or September? It was September 5th, right? It was such a great time. I mean, we got our butts kicked. That sucked. But what got you into watches to begin with? And how did you become tight with Oris?
To touch on the last part first, VJ is the man.
Yes.
And I think it just speaks to like how awesome like this whole watch network is.
Totally.
More than anything that I've ever been a part of, even like sports, teams, whatever. I feel like watch people are oftentimes like the most like-minded, maybe in the sense of like drive, passions, like dedication, as corny as that sounds. And I'll touch on that in a minute. But in terms of like my watch collection and habit, I've always liked watches, like the Belova, right? I got it at TJ Maxx. I think it was like $100, and I was like, "This thing is the shit."
It's nice.
You know, before that, I had a couple Michael Kors on the rubber strap, and I remember I bought a brown one from TJ Maxx, and one of the Red Sox players was like, "Dude, sick watch," and I was like, "Thanks, man." It was like 46 mil, like 48 millimeters, massive. But I was like, "This thing's cool." Like I'm getting compliments from like pro ball players, and I always wanted. I don't remember what the genesis of it was, but I always wanted a Breitling Navitimer, leather
Cool.
strap,
Yeah.
B01, like the original Navitimer. And I was like, one day when I can afford it, I'm going to get a Breitling. Almost bought one in February of 2020 when I was in Vegas for the McGregor fight. It's like the guy was selling it to me for like $8,000 full retail. He's like, "I'll give you this Breitling bomber jacket." And I was like, "All right, let me hold off," because $8,000 is a ass load of cash.
Yeah.
I had never spent that much money before on anything other than like a house or a car. So I'm like, let me think about it, do a circle, go to Rolex, nothing's there. And I'm like, well, I might go buy this Breitling. And they're like, well, if you can get a Rolex, you should definitely try. And I was like, well, what's an entry model? He was like, oh, this Oyster Perpetual, you can get a Submariner. I was like, well, how much is that? And he was like, well, Submariner at the time was like 6,900. And I was like, wait, I can get a sub for cheaper than this Breitling? He's like, yeah, if you can find one. So I'm like, holy shit.
So was that at the Wynn or where were you?
This was at, the shops at Aria, maybe?
Or Caesars?
Caesars. Yeah. One of them. Like, I think we were at Breitling and then we went to a Rolex that was in another casino. Gotcha. Anyway, I left Vegas without a watch, but the first thing I did when I got back to West Hartford is I went to Luxbond because I was like Googling Rolex ADs. And I had gone in there maybe a time or two prior. And my guy, Dave, dude, I love Dave there at Luxbond. And I'm like, dude, I went in there with like, it was February, right? So I'm like in a hoodie, backwards hat, right? I'm like, this is exactly what you're not supposed to do going into a store asking for a Rolex. And I don't deploy this very often unless I really think I need to. In this situation, I thought that I needed to, because here I am talking to like, you know, this established Rolex salesman, and I'm like in a hoodie. I probably came in from the gym. So eventually it got to us being like, I work at ESPN. I do SportsCenter Snapchat. I think by then I was dabbling in SportsCenter TV. And he's like, oh, my son works for NBA, da-da-da. So-and-so shops here. And I was like, awesome. I would love a Submariner. I would love a Submariner. And he was like, well, we don't have any right now, but, you know, I'll certainly put you on our list. And I was like, damn it. I've heard about this list. I leave there, no watch. Bro, 2 weeks later, he texts me. He's like, hey, Gary, it's Dave. You'll never believe it, but we got 2 subs. 1 date, 1 no date. Would you like one? And I'm like, no way. I wanted the no date anyway, and it was cheaper, so it was like way better.
Nice.
Like 6,900, I think 6,900 or 72. Anyway, I called my dad, and I was like, Dad, would you be mad at me? I don't even know why I called my parents.
Right.
Mad at me if I spent $7,000 on a watch, on a Rolex. Like you knew I've always wanted like a big time watch, and I've been at ESPN for a couple of years now. And he was like, it's your money, and if you want it, you certainly earned it. So I was like, that's the only sign off I needed.
That's nice, man.
I bought it the next day, and dude, I was on cloud nine, and that's when it freaked. That was February of February 2020. 10 watches later.
Yeah.
Later, dude, I can't cure the itch. So, Dave is the man, and John Green and his brother Mark, the owners, and yeah, Annie, the manager. They're great. I it's right up the street, so I walk my dog there all the time, and I'm always popping in, and they're just fantastic. So, yeah, man, that's what started it.
Okay, so
You get your first Rolex, and you're on YouTube for the next couple months, being like, I want to know everything about it. What's
yeah.
next? Give me the lineage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. I do know what you mean because I've been in this for over 10 years.
Of course, you know what I mean. Yeah.
Um, yeah, man, that's crazy. Well, congrats on that, man, because that's exciting. Like getting your first, I always call it getting your first watch that involves a comma in the price. You know what I mean? Like it's a different, it hits different, as the kids say. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. Like
Yeah.
you get nervous, like but above all, I mean, a Rolex Submariner, what more can you say? I mean, it's iconic, it's timeless. It actually does look cool with a suit. Like as much as it's not a dress watch, it's still dope as hell with a suit. So,
All the time with the suit.
um, so yeah, man, that's exciting. But so as I understand the story, then I guess this is a multi-brand boutique that you shop at routinely.
Yeah, Luxbond, they have a couple of branches. They have a couple of locations, Connecticut, Massachusetts,
Okay.
like Glastonbury, I think Western Mass. They have one down in Foxwoods. But yeah, the one here in West Hartford, which is their flagship, it's a mile up the street from me. So
Okay, so they carry Oris, and that was
yeah,
kind
they
of
carry Oris. Yeah, they carry
okay.
Oris. Which I met VJ at maybe you've heard of us talk about him. His name's Dan, great guy, has become like an awesome, awesome friend. He runs a watch group in Boston called Boston Watch Shots, and he was hosting an event, and it was sponsored by Oris. This was summer of 2021, I want to say, and it was sponsored by Oris. And I was like, oh, I know Oris. Like I've seen their watches. They're at Luxbond, and he was like, yeah, VJ, the CEO, is going to be there, and it's going to be awesome. He's a Yankees fan, and I'm like, wait, the CEO of like a Swiss watch company is going to just like be hobnobbing with these regulars, dude.
Right.
That seems cool. So already, like, my impression of VJ was like, dude, this guy's like the everyman. This is awesome. This is like a cool CEO, like not this, nose up in the air, hoity-toity, like doesn't know how to shake a hand or like have a conversation with like his actual consumers. So initially, my impressions of VJ were like, this guy's awesome. And then I didn't get a chance to meet with him until close to the end of the event, and Dan brought him over, and we kind of just hit it off quickly in passing. I think he knew I was a Red Sox fan. I knew at that point he was a Yankees fan, so I think there was like some friendly shit talking going on, right? I think the
Yeah.
Yankees were bad last year, or at least when I saw him. Um, and then we just sort of exchanged information. And obviously, VJ, big time baseball fan, and
Right.
I hosted our Baseball Tonight program at ESPN, and we just sort of got to talking like via text because he's Connecticut based as well.
Yeah.
He was like, actually, in September we're gonna have our Clemente Day, and here's our watch. I was like, oh, I see this one in the freaking showcase at Luxbond, and he was like, well, how would you like if I sent you one of these? And I was like, dude, I'll wear that. I'll wear it on the show. Hell yeah, I'll wear it on the show. He sent it to me, and he was like, keep it. And I'm like, what? VJ, I cannot keep this watch. Are you kidding me? One of 3,000. And I think it just goes to show like what kind of guy VJ is, right? Like more than, making a monetary gain for the company, he sees that there's an appreciation. And there is, like, if you look at the Venn diagram, man, there's an appreciation for like baseball, sport in general, and like horology and watches. And like that Venn diagram overlaps. And there's a lot of us like that. So I really appreciated how he recognized that. And then, of course, anybody who entrusts you to sort of represent the brand that way, and they're going to be gracious enough, you obviously want to do right by them. So I wear that thing all the time, almost to a fault, where I text him sometimes 6 a.m, and I'm like, hey, I got the big crown on,
Yeah.
yeah, and he texts me back at like, 9, 10 in the morning when like regular people are up and at me. He's like, looks good. And I'm like, shit, I forgot I texted him like 6 a.m.
Oh man, that's hilarious. Yeah,
So yeah, it's just been like a friendship ever since then. Obviously, seeing him in San Diego, I mean, yeah, I can't say enough good things about the guy. And like I said, I just think it's so cool that Oris is like a big player in the game, and he's just like he's in the trenches with just like the regular people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what I love about him. And, I've only met him a few times now. And, everything you're saying is just it's spot on, dude. Like, it's like he's so approachable.
Yeah.
There's no question that's stupid. In fact, so I hosted Josh on this show, Josh Shanks, when he was at Watchanista. And so he left Watchanista, went over to Oris. He was like, who you should have on your show is VJ. So that was my introduction. And when I did Wind Up, I was one of the exhibitors at Wind Up in Chicago. And so I was like, okay, VJ, let's connect in Chicago. Recorded, hit it off. I mean, the nicest guy, right? And so big shout out to VJ Geronimo. And
Definitely.
And so he and I were working on another event together actually for November. But then again, in 2 weeks I'll see him at Wind Up in New York. By the way, are you going to Wind Up?
No, I don't think so. In 2 weeks, actually, I'll be in Austin for F1.
Oh, bum. Well, okay. Well,
Yeah,
I'm jealous, but I hate that I'll miss you as well. You know what I mean? So
I'm pretty fired up.
oh, you should be.
I love F1, the racing, and I host our F1 digital program, which is awesome. It's like I don't ask for much at ESPN, but that's one where I overtly was like, "Hey, listen, we're doing F1. Please let me host this show."
Right.
I'm not overtly like made that ask before on anything. I just kind of go where people tell me. But this one, I kind of made it a point specific to talk to the powers that be, and I was like, "Listen, please."
Did they say like, of course, or were they like,
Yeah, they're like, yeah, let's make it happen. This makes it very much easy for us. Like we don't have to,
right, pick anybody.
yeah, exactly. So I was like, this is awesome.
So what was your introduction to F1 then?
Same thing with everybody, man. Drive to Survive, man. It was kind of one of those. It was kind of one of those, COVID binge viewing things. And I love obviously I love the racing aspect of it, like the actual sport, but almost equally, dude, I love like the pomp and circumstance, dude, just like the booziness of it, right? Like this unattainable lifestyle. And that's just like the underlying storylines of like life or death racing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they're in these beautiful venues, man. And it's so funny, like having a couple Rolexes, you see the Rolex signage and I'm like, oh shit, look, it's a Rolex signage. Like, are you watching the race or are you looking out for like the signs?
Right.
It's awesome, dude. I love everything about it, man. It's cool.
So who's your driver or team?
Dude, give me Red Bull, but more than that, give me Max Verstappen. Dude, I love a villain, but I love people who villainize him. Like he's like the Tom Brady of F1, right? Like you hate him because he's so good. If he was wearing your colors, you would love him. You know what I'm saying? If he was in any other fire suit, you would love the guy.
I totally agree with you. I think, and I'm a Ferrari guy because I was a Schumacher fan. So like, again, going back to like younger days, like I've been into this. So I grew up in NASCAR country.
Okay.
And I was like, you know what? I respect it. I dated a girl from Concord, North Carolina throughout my college career. So like I was very, very geographically close to NASCAR.
Yeah.
However, I always used to joke, I'd rather watch the cars that can actually make a right turn. You know what I'm saying? And so like from that perspective, I was just like, shoo me. Give me Schumacher. You know what I mean? And like Ferrari. I was always a Ferrari head since I was like 6 years old. So like I loved red, I loved Ferrari on down to now. Like I love Charles, I love, Carlos. And so to your point about the villainization, is that villainizing?
Listen, if we made up a word, we made up a word, but it sounds legit.
It sounds like Max has been villainized. And I don't know why.
Vilified.
He was vilified, yes, of course. And so, yeah, professional podcasting going on over here. But, it's interesting. I never really looked at it in those terms, but I absolutely agree with you that, like, if, Max were wearing a Mercedes, Nomex suit, like, it just, I don't know, dude. Like, I don't understand why everybody can vilify him when everybody complains when they lose. Everybody bitches, kicks, moans, you know. Sadly for Ferrari, you got reliability issues like left and right and all this kind of stuff. But like Max has so much grit and everybody's competitive, right? I mean, unless you're talking the last season of Kimi Räikkönen, which that's my guy, right? Kimi. But I agree with you, dude. So so you all Red Bull all the time? Or you got the gear and everything?
I like to see. Well, when I was in Miami, I wanted to get like the pit crew shirt.
Yeah.
They were taxing on those prices. I think there was like $150. So dude, it's so funny because I actually ended up getting the Miami Mercedes hat because it's sick, dude. It's got like that pastel colorway. Even though I'm not like a Mercedes, I like Lewis Hamilton. Don't get me wrong, but
Sure.
the hat itself is just too clean. I think at the race, it was like $110 they were charging for that hat directly on the F1 website, like the F1 shop.
$45.
$40.
Yeah.
I suppressed my urge to buy it then so I could wear it in Miami, and I ordered it. And by the time I got home, it was here, saved like $80, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah, man, I just think that he doesn't play by the etiquette, right? Like F1 is it's like the motorsport the country club of motorsports, right? There's etiquette, right? There's a proper way to go about things, right? And Max doesn't necessarily follow those guidelines. Yeah. And I'm all right with that, man. The guy's a winner, dude. Everyone just needs to shut up. And I would say this if I wasn't his fan, because I do like Carlos Sainz, right? But like I would say this about Max. I would just say, shut up, man. If you don't like him, just beat him.
Right.
Right. Just, I mean, he started 8th on the grid, you know what I mean, last week. So beat him.
Right. No, exactly. Are you into tags at all? Speaking of watches and Red Bull?
Tag Heuer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost bought an Aqua Racer.
Okay.
But I ended up not buying it. I almost got it from the Woodford Commons. Woodbury Commons.
Woodbury Commons. Yeah.
Awesome outlet.
Yeah, New Jersey. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. But it would have been an impulse buy, so I did not impulsively spend like whatever the $1,200 it was.
Yeah.
That showcase. No, I would rock one though. I would definitely rock one.
Sure. Yeah. Do you have a Grail watch?
I think so. I do have a Panda Daytona, and I do have a birth year day date.
Nice.
Which are sort of like the attainable. Like I can do this. I can definitely do this.
Okay, so what's your day date? Not interrupting you. Is it all gold?
1987. Yeah, day date. And I found it on TikTok, and I'm really good friends with the TikTok creator. He's a jewelry appraiser, Philadelphia Jewelry. His name's Josh. This is a plug for my guy, Josh Hyman in Philly. Love the guy. Great dude. Posted this TikTok, was like, you guys will not believe what I got in my shop. Fully complete receipts. It was sold on April 20th, 1987. I was born in 1987. Prior to this, I wanted a birth year day date. And I know people are like, oh, day date or birth year watches are stupid. I'm like, no, that's like super cool, right? Like to say like this watch came into the world same time I did. Anyway, fully complete, dude. Extra links, receipt. The jewelry store doesn't stand anymore. The previous original owner passed away. So I wanted to make sure with Josh, when I bought this, I was like, can you please get the blessing of the widow or the kids? Because, I don't want to buy this watch. If there's any sort of reservation that this family doesn't want, like, their loved one's watch going to some random dude in Connecticut. He knew them via like a mutual friend, and they're like, we're totally fine with it. He can have it. And that's why he sold it to me. So, I got like the family's blessing, kind of in a roundabout way. And yeah, man, it's, I only bring it out maybe once a quarter.
That's cool though, man. That's a special occasion watch, it sounds like.
Yeah, I wear it on my birthdays, and I wore it at the national championship. And then I wore it one time recently. Where did I wear it to? Some event. And then Dan is getting married next month in Boston. I might wear it for that, but it's a black tie. So I'm either going to go with the day date or the Panda.
Day date.
Day date would be, yeah.
Tuxedo.
Yeah, exactly. But the Panda, the black and white,
No, yeah, but still, man. That's a special occasion, man. You got to
it's gonna
bring.
be a game time decision, but maybe I'm just manufacturing like a hard decision.
Well, and with a tux, you got to slip it under the cuff. That
True.
36 millimeters is going to fit a little better under the cuff.
Dude, the 36 sits higher than the Panda does, dude. The Panda bezel is actually a little bit more low profile.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I don't have a day date. You know what I mean? So
It doesn't wear like a Panda, or it
right.
doesn't wear like a 40, the Daytonas.
Got it. Yeah, that's true. No, that's very
Yeah.
true. And the Panda's the way to go, I think, for the modern Daytona for sure. Do you have a Grail car?
Yes, Porsche 911, man. I would love, love, love. I mean, I was just going through some old ads on Instagram literally yesterday. And the one that Porsche made was like, because nobody said that their Grail was a Nissan or whatever, whatever it was, dude. Like when ads were awesome back in the day when you didn't care about like ruffling feathers and hurting feelings.
Yeah.
But it's so true. No disrespect to like Nissan Altima owners, but no one's like, man, my dream car is a Nissan Maxima, that miles per gallon. Let me tell you something. No, it's like, no, I want a Porsche 9 freaking 11. I don't even care if it's turbo because they're all turbo. Give me a Carrera 4S. You know what I'm saying? Like, give me that.
Yeah.
I would love a Porsche 911 because one, they're practical as a supercar can be in New England, and two, dude, they're just so badass.
Yeah. Well, and they also function better when you drive them. So they actually are the perfect daily driver if you're looking for a sports car. You know what I mean?
You have one?
Huh.
A Grail?
Oh, do I have a Grail? Yeah, I got tons of Grails. What are you talking about?
No, you can only have a Grail.
No. Well, I don't know. I do have multiple Grails because there's multiple categories of cars, right? So like, I would love an RS4 Avant Audi, right? Like I would love that car. However, absolutely Porsche GT3 Touring, done.
Oh yeah, okay.
Like
Yeah.
done.
So, dude, just ripping that. I was gonna say San Diego hills, but I don't think there are hills in San Diego.
There's bumps.
Just ripping that like on a beautiful San Diego day along the coastline or something.
Yeah.
You sort of like daydream and visualize these perfect days or like this dream life scenario.
Yeah.
And then you get to live it eventually.
Yeah.
Whether it's like a sports center thing or starting your own brand, right? Like you can't forget that the place you are now is where you were daydreaming about, praying about, wishing for like 5, 6, 10 years ago, right?
Totally.
So here we are talking about our Grail cars. When who knows, man, next year, 5 years from now, we're like, you're driving that thing on the coast, your GT3 on the coast with the missus, or I got my 911 driving up to my cabin in New Hampshire. Like that's the life, dude. That's the life.
Yes. Dude, I love that, man. I love that. All right, I just have a couple more questions for you.
Yeah, all good.
I want to talk about real estate.
Let's talk about real estate, dude. You scratch another itch that I have.
So you have a cabin in New Hampshire.
No, that's my dream life.
That's the dream life. Okay.
That is my dream life, is to every couple of days when I'm off, load up the truck or the Jeep or the Porsche, get the girlfriend, get my dog, take the 3-hour drive, and go to my cabin in the woods. That's the life, dude. But right now, yeah, I'm into a little bit of residential real estate. And again, it was just a hobby that I picked up, an expensive hobby that I picked up in COVID. I had 20 grand saved up. Remember, I'm 35 now, 2020. I probably should have had way more saved up.
No, that's all right.
20 grand saved up. And I was like, this money's just sitting here. I need to do something. This was back before the market went crazy. So you could buy condos for 60, 70, 80 grand. So found a condo that was like 78 grand. I think I ended up paying 70 for it, rented it out immediately. It was turnkey. And I got the itch. I was like, I'm getting how much a month? And, I put 20% down. So I spent the whole 20 grand, but now I had this $80,000 asset and I was getting, I think, $1,200, $1,300 a month. I'm like, this is awesome.
Nice.
So I got so hooked that I had a paid off Wrangler, and there was another condo in Bristol right down the street from ESPN. This one was cheaper. It was like 70 grand. And I offered the guy 62.5. He said yes. So I sold my Jeep for 19,000, and I used that 19 grand to put down on this next condo. And that's when I bought a Prius for $1,700 just to get me around, because I sold my Jeep.
Oh,
It
wow.
didn't have AC in the middle of July in humid Connecticut, dude. So I was all in, dude. I was like, this is the way.
That's a financial decision right there.
Yeah, I was reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm like, dude, I'm getting assets. Um, and sure enough, the renter who rented my Bristol condo didn't have a job. He was relocating his family. I eventually had to evict him, but he had 10 months prepaid. So it gave me a stack of $11,000. I used that to buy another property. So it just kind of like snowballed. In April, I was up to 7 rentals.
Holy shit.
Peak of the market. Yeah. So I got up to 7 in about a year and a half, which is great. It was a full-time job though, because it was just me and my property manager fielding calls, requests, issues. Top of the market, April, my real estate agent was like, you should try to offload if you want to, because you'll get over asking. The market's ridiculous. Sure enough, I offloaded 2 properties for 20-30% over ask.
Nice.
So now I'm sitting at 4, but I'm under contract on a 5th. And I went and looked at another one today. I might put an offer on.
And that's that beautiful kitchen floor that you
Love that floor, dude. So look at me.
Is that linoleum?
It is linoleum. So like, look at all of these messages. I know it's not a visual program, but these are all people responding to the linoleum floors.
See,
Half of them love it, half of them hate it. I'm gonna keep it, man. I love the look of them. They're not tile or whatever.
I hit you with the wallpaper. That's what I hit you with.
Oh, really? Okay, I did see. I haven't even gone through them all, but yeah. If I put in an offer and I get this, I'm keeping the floors and I'm just gonna put some granite and paint the cabinets. But yeah, man, I love it. It's like
Are we doing granite or are we doing quartz?
I would do granite. I have granite countertops here, and it's just one big slab, just like passing the eye test. It's just one big slab of granite, right? And I might make it a short-term rental. I got to run my numbers actually tonight, but I mean, this is like not advice. Like, who am I? I'm just like this guy who just decided to get into it, and I'm learning as I go. But man, if you can get one rental property, it will change your life. Like, it'll change the trajectory of your financial future.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane.
Okay, so you work with a property manager. How did you guys connect?
Facebook Marketplace. I was looking for a door for one of my condos, and this door he was selling for like $5. So I went and picked it up, got it to my house, and the hinges didn't line up. So I texted him. I was like, hey, hinges don't line up. Could you help me with this? He was like, yeah, dude, I'll shoot over. You want me to put it in? I was like, yes. Came over like the next day or that night and had it in the next 20 minutes. And then he was like, we started talking because I was new to the real estate thing. He was like, man, I'd love to get more into property management. That's what I would like to do.
Yeah.
Say less, dude. Like, I'm your first client.
Wow.
We've been good buddies now for going on the better part of 2 years now.
So do you pay him like a set amount, or does he get a percentage of like their monthly rent?
I give him a monthly retainer, which includes like 2 house calls, but I pay for all of his hourly labor and parts
Okay. So anything over 2 calls, you pay him extra.
for a house call. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah, the retainer's 2 house calls caked in. And really what the retainer does is it allows me to skip the front of the line, because he is now full time doing projects, building out basements, because he's licensed and insured complete contractor.
Oh, nice.
But if there's an issue at one of my spots and we've been together for so long, if he gets a text, I go to the front of the line, and I know and I can trust that he's going to put me at the front of the line. So that way we clean shit up quick, and then it's on to the next problem. So my best months are when I just pay him on the first and I don't hear from him until the next month.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And we've had a couple of those, which is great.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Well, Gary, I really appreciate you taking the time, dude. This has been a lot of fun.
This is awesome, man. Yeah, I think sorry that I freaking rambled on the whole entire time, man. I think
That's how these go.
well, I know I didn't allow my guy Wes though any chance really, but Dude, thanks, man. This was great. I'm so glad that you and I crossed paths and connected in San Diego. And I just think, again, the watch world is like such a cool, dynamic space. I think that's what people need to know is like this happened. I'm calling you cross country, or you're calling me cross country, San Diego to Connecticut, all because we like stupid, outdated mechanical watches that, have been replaced by these wearable tech pieces. But it's all watches, man. It's cool. It's great. It's a great network. And again, it brings like-minded people around. Like-minded people in the sense that like you have your own industry with your clothing and apparel, and I have mine with like this broadcast thing. But in terms of like the mental capacity and determination that you need to actually get far in that space,
right?
We share that in common.
Yeah. No, man, it's great. Beautifully said. I can't think.
And again, he doesn't build transmission, guys. Yeah. He does not build transmissions. I can't believe I thought that for the first 6 hours of meeting you. I was like, dude, this guy's hands aren't dirty at all. What is he just like the shop owner? Is he one of those guys who just comes in, makes sure everybody's working?
Delegating. Yeah. It's a strong delegation game going on over here.
He's a true boss. This guy must be rich.
All right, man. Well, listen, I hate that I'll miss you at Wind Up. Please enjoy the Austin GP, man. Like, I'm super jealous that you're going to be going. I went in 2016, had a great time. Something tells me your view will be better than mine. It's all good. Jealous.
Yeah, one thing I'm looking forward to is Ed Sheeran's like my favorite artist. He's performing on Saturday night. So I've already told the production coordinator. Again, I don't ask for anything, but I did ask her specifically. I was like, if there's any way I can buy the best tickets you can possibly get me, count me in. If I can meet him, I will love you forever.
Yeah.
Backstage, please God, work your magic.
Okay.
I pull it through.
All right. So let's go ahead and workshop this right now. What is the question we're going to ask Ed about his watch collection? Because you already know.
Ed, can I interest you in an Oris? My guy VJ
is
the most stand-up gent you'll ever meet. And you just seem like a guy who would appreciate this piece of horological mastery on your wrist.
100%.
We gotta bring this full circle and help our guy VJ out, dude.
That's right.
For everything that he's done for us,
Only Diver 65s for Ed Sheeran going forward.
Hell yeah.
Awesome, man. Gary, thank you, brother. And great to see you.
All right, brother. Good to see you, man.
Okay, thank you.
Talk to you later. I see you.
Yeah.
This wraps up this episode of the Standard H podcast. If you like what you heard, I'd love it if you'd share it with a friend or two. And if you have a moment, please rate and review the show as it helps others discover these episodes. It absolutely helps far more than you realize. Shout out to Jensen Reed and Super Beautiful for the theme track, as well as Clear Audio for the noise canceling headphones. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.